have the circles. Start with the circles. I'm going to try and let you know where we are in our mission process currently, and then to connect where we are in the mission process to our building needs. So bear with me because it takes a little bit of time to explain where we are in the mission process so you can understand the last part of the conversation. So just start here with the first paper with the circles. And when I first talked to Pastor Doug about working on a mission process, he was very adamant that we follow a process that is spiritual and Christian related. So the process we settled on is the 3 listenings, and that's what each circle represents, is the 3 listenings. And what that means is, first, we're listening to God, and by listening to God, it reveals our identity. And what that means is we need to understand our beliefs about God, because our beliefs about God in this church may be different than someone else's church. And we also need to know what God is asking his church to do and be. What are the functions of this church that God wants us to be able to fulfill? So that is all of our listening to God activities are trying to reveal our identity. Our second listening is listening to our neighbors. That reveals our context. We live in a community. We have certain needs and opportunities within our community of Wapakoneta. And we want to know, what is God asking us to do to respond to the needs and opportunities here? So that's our second listening. Our third listening is listening to each other. And when I say listening to each other, I mean those members here within our congregation. This reveals our purpose. We're going to find out what are our unique gifts and talents as a church and as individuals to respond to the needs of the congregation and the community as a whole. We're also going to go deeper into what does the building need to be able to respond to those needs. What does this building have to be able to fulfill? We're also going to ask the question, what are the personnel and resources we need to respond to the needs of the church and the community? So those are our 3 listenings. And then you can see where the 3 circles intersect. Our identity, our context, and our purpose is where our mission lies. So I want to talk about the mission more. Turn the page over, please. On the back side of that page, you're going to see the components of the mission. We've been talking about mission, and we've been saying just the word mission. But mission is more than just a thing. It's more than just, we have the missionary here. It's more than just supporting a missionary. That's part of a mission, but it's not the whole mission. So there's many components of the mission. So if you look at the top of the page, and I want to draw your attention to the right where our core beliefs are. Our core beliefs are what we faithfully believe to be true, and this is biblically based on our theology, what our faith traditions are. This is what we believe to be true. To the left, you see the core values. This is what we believe in our church is important to us. This is what we value. It's important. Also biblically based. At the top, we see this arch of core principles that connects our core values and our core beliefs. And our core principles are our guiding principles from which we make our decisions, based on our biblical understanding of our beliefs and our core values. And these all enwrap and support and are the glue that hold together 3 things: our mission statement, our vision statement, and our strategic plan. So the mission statement, which is I think where most people think when we say mission, what it is, a mission statement is simply, you might be able to better think of it as a purpose statement. And if you use the sentence, the purpose of St. Mark's is ... that's your purpose statement. And it answers the question, why in God's name do we exist? Then from there we build on that to our vision statement. And that's what St. Mark's wants to be. This is future-oriented, and this is big. This is thinking big. God is big, so is our church. What does God want us to accomplish? Wants us to accomplish. And it answers the question, where in Jesus' name are we going? And the last component of the mission is the strategic plan. And this is how you're going to achieve and implement our vision. And there will be goals associated, stepwise goals. And it answers the question, how by the power of the Holy Spirit are we going to get there? I'm going to come back to the strategic plan here at the end, but we're going to move on. So the 3 listenings below, and to show you where we are in developing the components of the mission, we've done on the left, listening to God is mostly what we've done so far. The things we've learned with our listening to God and revealing our identity are a few. I'm going to highlight 3. First, just to give a little bit of background, the function of the church is to provide a place of worship, and it's supposed to be a place of community, and it's also a place to serve God. Where we've been dealing with and focusing on is in the worship. We feel like we want our worship to be engaging and spirit-centered, and we want it to carry us through 7 days a week. We don't want our church to be a 1-day-a-week church. We want to be so spirit-filled, so full of energy, that we are carrying God's mission 7 days a week. Some things to think about with that: networking, technology. We might need some of those components to help support worship in that manner, so that here on the service we can be engaging with more technology. Networking obviously will help with that as well. That's number 1 thing that we've learned, is we want this engaging and spirit-centered worship. Second thing, we want to focus on being community. And being community, and this is Pastor Doug's, how he presented the church function to us. Being community means developing closer Christ-centered relationships with each other. And a big part of that we've been focusing and discussing is small groups. How to get us connected to each other in small groups so that we are connected, again, 7 days a week. And the last thing that we've been focusing on is this message of grace. We think this is very much tied to our particular identity, not just as our Lutherans, but we believe our church at St. Mark's wants to continue to emphasize the message of God's grace. So we've done the listening to God. We still have listening to community, which we're going to start in the next meeting on Tuesday, and then quickly move to listening to each other. So let's turn the page, because after we've done the listening to God, we did a brainstorm session. And from that brainstorm session, we've developed a mission statement and guiding principles. And you can see it's a draft. This is not finalized, and but it is in a good enough shape that we can start using it at this point in time. So the mission statement says, St. Mark's mission is to be God's grace in action. Again, this can be tweaked. We might have something different by the time it's all said and done, but focusing again on that message of grace and action, we thought both were important, not being passive. And going down below to our guiding principles. At this point in time, this guiding principle is a mixture of core beliefs, core values, core principles, but it's good enough for us to work with. So what can we confer from where we are in this draft statement? I want to take you to a couple different things in particular. First, I want you to take you to number 2 and number 6. Number 2 says we love one another as Jesus has loved us. And number 6 says we practice kind-heartedness, and it goes on from there, nurturing relationships. And so some things to think about when you're thinking about loving one another and practicing kind-heartedness is, does this building demonstrate that we love the members of our church? Does it support a loving relationships? Does this building, are we being kind-hearted to visitors? Do we have the adequate heat, air conditioning, bathrooms that make us kind-hearted? Just let you think on that. Number 5, communal worship is the center of our life together. Does this building support worship? Again, I talked about it earlier. Do we have the technology? Do we have the networking? Do we have the screen presentation? Do we have the computer programming to make Pastor Doug or any pastor we have's job more efficient so he can be more engaging and we can have a more spirit-filled worship experience? Number 8, we desire to grow, and then it follows, grow and pass this on to our children and youth. Can we grow and pass God's loving message with the current state of our building, with our current personnel, and our current resources? These are all things to think about. All relates to the mission. So I want you to turn the page now to the last page, where we're at, our steps to completion. We've completed listening. We still need to complete listening to our neighbors, listening to each other, which we're starting on shortly. We're going to continue to revise and clarify our mission statement, our core beliefs, our core values, our guiding principles, as we are listening to our neighbors and listening to each other. So this is not set in stone, it's going to be revised. We're going to complete the vision statement, and then we're going to complete the strategic plan, which is the steps to achieve our vision. You can expect, and I said I was coming back to the strategic plan, here I am. You're going to see, when it's all completed, recommendations for programming. Like I said before, I mentioned small groups to support our mission. You're going to see recommendations for building use to support our mission. There may be recommendations for personnel to support our mission. All of those things are likely going to impact our budget. So there may also see recommendations for capital campaign, borrowing, or stewardship campaign to help with us doing all the things we need to do to support our larger mission. Once that's all done and we have the strategic plan where we think it is as a committee, we send it on to council to approve. Council approves it, sends it on to the membership. Membership of the St. Mark's is going to vote on it. It'll be either at a special meeting or we're hoping it will be done at the annual meeting in December so you can vote on them at that time. That's what our hope is. We'll see how we are. Once that's all done and the membership approves or whatever it does approve, the mission focus team will dissolve and then it's enacted by church council in any way that church council decides it needs to be enacted. So that's where we are in the mission. That's how it impacts the building, how we want to think about building use, programming use. And if there's any questions, or the list of the members are here that you can ask. And I put my email and pastor's email there too, if you'd rather email me. And I'll be available here after the meeting too, if there's any other questions. But now I think we're opening it up to questions about finance, the project in general that's being discussed. And are there any?